Am I the butthole for leaving a family gathering and insisting mother-in-law apologize over M&Ms? My wife, female, 34, and I, female, 31, have 2 wonderful children, 4 and female, 4 twins. They were conceived with my wife's eggs, a known sperm donor, and I carried/birthed them. Both kids ended up being practical clones of my wife, so it's pretty clear to everyone who contributed the genetic material. My in-laws had everyone together at their house earlier this month. We're all vaccinated, and the weather was nice, so we had a barbecue. My kids were outside playing with their cousins, and sister-in-law, mother-in-law, and I were chatting in the kitchen. At one point my 2 run inside from playing and ask if they can have some M&Ms that they see on the counter. I tell them no, we'll be eating in 15 minutes, you can have them after dinner. They run back out and mother-in-law excuses herself to go outside. A little bit later sister-in-law and I get the call that food is ready, so we go outside and I see my kids each have a little cup full of M&Ms that they are eating. I tell my kids that they knew they were not supposed to be eating those and took away the cups. Mother-in-law comes over and says that she gave them the M&Ms and they can have them. To which I replied, no they can't, it's dinner time, you were there when I told them no. Mother-in-law says again that they can have some chocolate, it's fine, and tries to take the cups out of my hands. We go back and forth with no yes no for a minute, prompting wife to start walking over to us, just in time to hear mother-in-law say, in front of my kids, I'm saying it's okay, they aren't even your kids, they're wife's, just give them the chocolate. Wife had mother-in-law repeat herself, and said something like absolutely not, we're leaving. I put the M&Ms on the nearest table, grabbed both my kids, who were now softly crying, and started to pack our stuff. The whole event erupted into chaos, father-in-law screaming about the disrespect of us leaving, grandmother crying, brother-in-law and sister-in-law arguing with father-in-law, mother-in-law crying that her only daughter is abandoning her. It was a mess. After a couple hours at home the kids seemed okay, but mother-in-law saying I'm not their mom really scared them. Wife spent about 4 hours on rotating phone calls with all of her family, from father-in-law screaming at her, mother-in-law crying over how we took her grandkids away over M&Ms and made her out to be a bad grandma, brother-in-law trying to get in the drama, grandmother depressed saying she would die without seeing her great-grandkids again. Wife's message to all of them was that mother-in-law needed to apologize to me and to our children for what she said. We made it clear that we would have no problem spending time with grandmother and brother-in-law's family, but we would not bring the kids around mother-in-law until she apologized. As you can guess, the apology has not happened, but the phone calls of guilt trips, yelling, and crying have not let up. I feel an apology is not even a big deal, and at this point mother-in-law is making the choice not to see her grandkids. I want to hold firm, but I know how hard this all is on my wife, even if I really don't think it's my fault. Am I the butthole for insisting on an apology? Not the butthole. This was said specifically to inflict pain. To diminish your family. Even after an apology, not sure with that homophobic behavior I'd see her again. You birthed those kids. She knew exactly what it meant when she said it. Right? Over M&Ms, for F's sake. And it's not even about M&Ms, it's how she clearly doesn't respect/recognize original poster as a parent to her own children and will likely undermine her parental authority in the future. Edit. Thanks for the awards. I can't understand how mother-in-law could even insinuate that original poster's not a parent to the kids. I mean, for F's sake, she effing gave birth to them. Would mother-in-law say that to adoptive parents as well? Because according to her, if you didn't contribute genetic material, you're not a parent. What a effed up thing to say to any good parent. Edit. Aw, thanks for the award, but please don't spend money on me. If mother-in-law is narcissistic, then she knows exactly what buttons to push to insult and undermine original poster. She wouldn't dare say any of that to an acquaintance or friend. If mother-in-law is narcissistic, then she knows exactly what buttons to push to insult and undermine original poster. Like flipping the argument by saying she's now depressed she won't see her grandkids again. Defo. A narc. She clearly doesn't respect/recognize original poster as a parent to her own children and will likely undermine her parental authority in the future. Carrot. Perfect summary of what this all boils down to. Original poster. This is a hill worth dying on. Emotions are high, so I know it can be hard to see further down the road, but this is a moment that will create long-term effects. If you cave to your mother-in-law, it will only reinforce that she can get away with her behavior. Anytime you try to set a boundary in the future, she'll know she just has to escalate her tantrum until you'll give in, just like you did this time, hypothetically. Do you and your wife want this woman to undermine your role as a parent to your children? They're young now, but they're already very impressionable, as you know. Hearing that their mom isn't their mom will cause them confusion, uncertainty, and fear. Children need to feel safe and loved at all times, but it's incredibly important when they're that young. You and your wife are the shield that protects your children. I know what you both are feeling right now is incredibly painful. What you need to do is remember that while you hurt now, you're stopping it from transferring to those innocent little ones. Stand strong with your wife and be each other's support. Block anyone trying to guilt and harass either of you, though it sounds like your wife is managing her family, which is how it's supposed to be, but rarely is. Huge props to her. If you have to, cut contact for however long is needed for mother-in-law to apologize. You can do this original poster. The pain right now can stop a lot of unnecessary pain in the future. I can't believe you'd leave over M&Ms. You're right. It would have been incredibly easy for you to respect my decisions about parenting my own child. I can't believe this either. Mother-in-law reduced her to an incubator. I would be livid too. Even if original poster hadn't given birth to them, that comment is beyond the pale. Mother-in-law should be down on her knees apologizing to original poster's whole family. I'm pretty suspicious of all the relatives now. This is just so egregious I can't see any sane person supporting her. Not the butthole. The argument wasn't over M&Ms, it was about mother-in-law disrespecting you as a parent, first by undermining you and then by openly stating that she doesn't even consider you your children's parent, despite the fact that you grew them, birthed them, and are raising them. She implied that in her eyes the only family that counts is genetics, not the people who are there for you every day, support you, protect you, and love you unconditionally. Her attitude is disgusting, and I'm so sorry she confused and frightened your children like that. She was 100% TA. Just a cool little bit of info: the woman who carries the baby from donated eggs does have an affect on the baby's DNA. It has been found that the RNA of the birth mother interacts with the baby's DNA, turning on or off bits of the DNA. The epigenetic effects during the pregnancy are not to be underestimated. The health of the mother has an effect on the metabolism and health of not just the baby but the grandchildren too. They found this by doing multi-generational studies on populations of people who went through famine while pregnant. The children of malnutrition pregnant mothers were more prone to weight gain, and so were the grandchildren. The mother carrying the baby has a huge responsibility to eat well and stay healthy to give them everything they need, and she's also making a big sacrifice to carry them and birth them. Just because it's natural and lots of women do it, doesn't mean it doesn't come with health risks and the possibility of short and long-term issues. Not only that, but fetal microchimerism is a thing too. The fetal cells of her babies leave the womb and travel about her body, settling in random places and interacting with maternal cells. Original poster is literally a chimera with her baby's cells distributed throughout her body. Also, the immune system is developmental in nature. Each human has about 1.3 kilograms of bacteria by weight in their body, and those microbiomes are inherited from the birth mother during birth, and it is required for the immune system to develop at all. Babies born by a C-section are now being swabbed with vaginal mucus from mom to make sure that baby gets a good dose of bacteria. Mom's breast milk also seeds bacteria into the gut of the baby to help it digest all the sugars and proteins that the baby will be consuming and the other things it will eat as it grows. So original poster is a chimera, and her babies literally would have no immune system or ability to eat food at all if they didn't inherit her microbiome. Original poster passed on a bacterial lineage going back millions of years. Just because the kids don't have the same nuclear DNA, except the mom has some of theirs now, doesn't mean they are not heavily genetically intertwined. And of course epigenetic inheritance, which is extremely important but discussed elsewhere in this thread. The experiences that original poster's great-grandparents had are influencing those kids today. Edit: humans have been doing absolutely insane things when it comes to birth and child rearing for the past couple hundred of years, and especially the last 100 years. Not everyone is the same, and most of the time it just leads to random small percentages of populations experiencing illness at earlier ages of old age instead of slightly older late age. Edit 2. Like how they did a study 80 years after the Dutch hunger winter of World War II where gestating babies were literally starving in the womb, and they went on to live fine lives but started to show more heart disease in their 60s than their peers who weren't developing in the womb while their moms literally ate tulip bulbs to avoid starvation. If these people lived pretty good lives, then people need to calm down about the small stuff. People of different cultures also do lots of different things. 99.99% of people turn out just fine. People even thought breast milk was sterile until just recently anyways, and people have been having C-sections without vaginal swabs for years. Babies still get a microbiome from the skin of the mother on the way out, and then more when it comes to living in proximity to the infant. Did you know that the colostrum, first milk that comes out when a baby is born, considered liquid gold by some, used to be routinely thrown out cause people thought it was icky? Crap happens. Till. That is a fun fact. Ooh, that is cool. If mother-in-law apologizes, I hope original poster and wife will make sure it is long time before she's allowed to be alone with those kids. I'd be terrified of what horrible things she'd say behind their backs given what she blatantly said to their faces. She needs to earn that trust back, and to me, that would be literally over years. Not the butthole. But please keep in mind that mother-in-law revealed how she really feels. She genuinely believes her parental rights supersede yours, and if you get some superficial apology, that's still a pretty lonely and scary place for you to be. You should definitely expect more than an apology, you need real contrition. That's a good point. Make sure all the legal paperwork is in order in case anything should happen to either of you. I wouldn't put it past mother-in-law to make a play for the kids if something happened to original poster's wife. Grandma is playing a dangerous game. In most jurisdictions, the one who gives birth holds all the cards. Even official surrogates often have the option to change their minds. If someone tells you who they are, listen. 10,000%, not the butthole. I'm giving your wife a virtual high five. Way to go for her to stand for you against her family like that. Not going to lie, but I sort of teared up a little when mother-in-law said that in front of your kids. What an awful, awful thing to say. How traumatic for them to hear that. There's just so much wrong with what happened. You and wife are doing the right thing by shelving hangouts with mother-in-law until she wises up and apologizes. Oh my god, that just made me so angry to read. Edit, put extra emphasis on them being your kids. Not the butthole, you have a great wife to have her defend you like that. She's a keeper, a-okay hand. The only quibble I have with the wife is that she hasn't put all these fools on mute and stopped taking their calls. Continuing to humor their guilt trips is only reaffirming everyone's misguided belief that if they just keep trying, they'll be able to press the get out of consequences free button. Insisting that mother-in-law apologize over her hateful comment is the bare minimum. And no, it doesn't matter if she claims she didn't mean it. She said it. She owns those words, and so she owns those consequences. She can send a bouquet and a decent apology. Not the butthole. Not the butthole. It was not about M&Ms, it's about mother-in-law disrespecting your rules and going behind your back, and ultimately offending you by suggesting the kids aren't even yours. Come on. You gave birth to them and you are raising them. Mother-in-law should really rethink her behavior and apologize. Not the butthole. You didn't leave over M&Ms, you left over your mother-in-law stating, in front of your children, that they were not your children, and you did not have the right to parent them. That absolutely needs to be sorted out before you are around her again. Even if she doesn't use the words "I'm sorry," somehow, your mother-in-law needs to verbalize understanding that these are your children, and you have the right to parent them. It sounds like she needs to reinforce that to your children as well. She crossed a huge line. She at least needs to acknowledge that it was very wrong, and won't happen again. Again, for any relative who questions you, it's not about M&Ms, it's about mother-in-law stating that my children were not really my children, and I did not count as a parent. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.